Hello, my gorgeous friends on the internet. How are you all doing? Okay, today we are going to look at. I'm going to show you how to parse JSON data using the HTTP library in Flutter, and also I'm going to show you how to cache those data that is being fetched from the internet into a local storage, and then whenever you don't have internet connection, you can then retrieve those data back onto your Flutter UI again. Okay, so the three things we'll be needing for this tutorial is the HTTP package. Okay, so if you don't know about HTTP package, it's a package that helps us to make network requests. Okay, like the get, the post, the put, and the delete request over the internet. So with this, we can use it to get data, put data, delete data over the internet. Also, we have the I'm also going to work with the path provider. So this one will help us to store our JSON data into the local storage. Okay, so there are so many alternatives to this. You can decide to use SQLite, you can decide to use shared preference, but I prefer using this path provider. That way we can store our data as a JSON format into our local storage, and that way retrieving it is very fast. At least a milliseconds the data will be retrieved successfully. And again, we'll be using the fake JSON placeholder endpoint. So this is going to generate all the data we'll be using for this tutorial. So in case you want to follow me and code, just go to jsonplaceholder.typicode.com, and you're going to see so many endpoints you can work with. But now I'm selecting comments. Okay, so this is comment, and you can see the beginning side is a list of objects, and inside the object we have strings. Okay, and we also have an integer here. Okay, so without much ado, the first thing I'm going to do is to create my Flutter project, because right now I don't have any Flutter project. It's just my emulator. So I'm going to open my terminal, and let me see where I'm going to navigate to. Okay, so I'll navigate to okay, so inside here I'm going to create the app. So just navigate to document, cd document. Okay, let me see the data is there. Okay, so I'm going to create the app inside here. So I'll just do flutter create fetching app. Okay, so and hit enter. So give this a little bit of time for it to fetch everything that is being needed. Okay, all right. Okay, it's all done. So still give it a little bit of seconds. There are two methods of passing JSON data in Flutter. One is by using a raw method, and which is what I'll be using here, and the other one is by using a plain old Dart object class. So we're going to create a plain old Dart object class, but that I'm not going to cover it in this video. That will be in my next tutorial. So consider subscribing, and so that you won't miss when I upload the video. Okay, so this is taking. Okay, so now our app has been successfully built, and you can see I have my Flutter installed, Android 2 chain, Android Studio, and also my connected devices. So now I'm going to cd into this directory. So I'll copy that and paste it here. So now I'm inside the directory. So if I list it, you will see that we have everything that is contained inside the basic Flutter application. So I'm just going to go open this up with my VS Code editor. So you use code dots, and you should launch the VS Code. So as soon as it's launched, I can just close the terminal because I won't be needing it again. So just exit that. Okay, so now we have our Flutter app. Okay, you can see you just let's go to our lib folder, to the main.dat, and right here you can see just a boilerplate code and nothing much, just a basic boilerplate code. I'm going to remove these, but first I want to run the app on my emulator so that we can see. So wait for it. I'm going to bring my emulator up. Okay, so finally our app is finally running on the emulator, and you can see just a basic boilerplate app. So if you click on this increment button, it's incrementing by 1. Okay, so what I'm going to do is to remove all of this code. So I'll remove this, we don't need it. I'll also remove this, it's not needed. And then I can just, let me pause this so that to not show an error. So I'm going to remove this. Okay, remove this home. So I'm just going to grab a home. Okay, so remove this class also, we don't need all of these. Okay, so now we're just left with our material app, and we will return the title flutter demo. So I will change this to flutter json app. Okay, so the color, instead of using blue, let's use something unique. Okay, so let me go with blue 200. Okay, kind of a light blue. So the home page, is gonna just be JSON page. Okay, so I'm going to create a stateful widget here. I'm using a stateful widget because we are fetching the data from the internet, and the data are going to be changing with time. So I'm going to say JSON page. Awesome. So here just return a scaffold with an app bar, and the title is going to be a test. So I'll use a const since it's not changing. So I'll use a test widget dot. Okay, so I can get that title from there. So I can just pass it directly. So let me say flutter JSON app. Okay, awesome. And we also have the color, so primary swatch and all that. Awesome. So now I'm going to run the app again to see what we got. So I'll do a hot restart here. Okay, type color is not a subtype of type material color. Okay, so I can use this. I can just remove it here since we are only working inside the bar. So I'll just say background colors. Okay, let me go with accent. It's always good to change sometimes. So I'm going to go with colors dot. Okay, it's still not working. Stick with your blue. Okay, so colors dot blue, and let's see. Okay, so the color is a little bit transparent, but now we are having the shadow here. I don't want that shadow, so I'm going to do something like elevation and make that to 0. So now the shadow will be gone. Awesome. So now we have a basic Flutter demo app and no body for now. So you can see the body is empty. So this body, we're going to use a feature builder to populate our list. So the next thing we're going to do now is to go over to the browser. So I told you we are going to add a HTTP library. So I will go to installing. And from installing, I can now add it into my prospect.yaml file. So just copy this library, go back to your code, down into your prospect.yaml file, and okay, so under Cupertino icon, I'm going to paste it in there. Also go back again to get the path provider. So this will enable us to catch our data in our local device storage. Okay, so I'm also going to copy this and go back to prospect.yaml file and paste it also. Okay, so just allow the Flutter to do its thing, and after that we are getting an exit code. So I'll go to my terminal and just type in flutter pop get. Okay, so now we have successfully added the HTTP and the path library. So next I'm going to create a folder inside my leaf folder. So I'll create a separate folder which will be JSON provider. So this will enable me to, I'll use this to make the network request. Okay, the first package I'm going to add is the HTTP library which we just imported. So we have http.dat. So I'm going to import it as HTTP. Okay, so inside here I'm going to create a basic class, so it will be API provider. Okay, so I'm going to get the endpoint, so just a final URL. So I'm going to go back to the endpoint where I said I'm going to fetch the data from, and just copy this stuff and go back to my code and paste this inside here. Awesome. So this is the endpoint where our data will be coming from. Okay, so I'm going to create a future, since it's a network request we are doing and I don't know when the response is going to return. So I'm going to use a future, and I'm not going to return anything, because by default it's going to return whatever I return inside the function. Okay, then I'm going to say get data. So this is the function name, and this is going to be an asynchronous function because it's a network request. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is to create a variable. So this will be request. So I'm making a request to the HTTP library. So I will use the await keyword, await, and the name. So we say HTTP, which is this package I imported here, and I say dot get, and passing the URL, which is this one. Awesome. So now we have successfully made a request to that endpoint. So now I'm going to check if the request dot the status code is success, that is 200. 200 means it's successful response. 201 also means it's successful response. So if response the status code is equal to 200, so what do I want to do? I'll just say, okay, I will get the body first from the request. So I will say body request dot body. So this is just going to list everything inside that is contained inside this JSON data. Okay, so next I need to bring my emulator. Okay, so next I'm going to decode this function so that we can actually pass it and populate it onto our UI. So I will give okay, so I will say response equal to JSON. Okay, you make sure you want to import the dat.convert package is here. Okay, JSON.decode. So what am I decoding? I'm decoding the body. Awesome. So now the next thing I'm going to do, I'll just return the body. So until I return this body, I won't be able to use it on my UI. So I'm going to return it so that we'll be able to populate our UI with this very data. So what if we have an error in our response? So I can just return JSON.decode body, JSON.decode response.body. You can see just similar thing with this above one I did here, just that I just made everything to be in one line. You see, instead of declaring it inside a variable. Awesome. So you can do whichever one that suits you. Okay, now so we are done with our network function. So the next thing, I'm go back to my main.dat file and create a future builder class, future builder widget. So it's going to be the body, and this is going to be a future builder, and the future builder takes two parameters. One is the future. So the future is going to be the path to this function. So I'm going to get this function as the future. Okay, so I will say API provider dot get data. Okay, so that's the future, and also I return a builder. So in this builder we enable us to build our widgets. Okay, so for now I'm just going to return a test with, okay, no, first I'm going to check if the snapshot, so all our data is being contained inside the snapshot. So I will say if snapshot dot has data, that if snapshot does not have data, so I'll use the not equal sign here, does not have data. Okay, please hold on a little, I'm coming back to that. Okay, so if snapshot does not have data, you can just return a circular progress indicator. Okay, but if the data is in our snapshot, I'll return a test for now because I'm not creating any widgets yet. So I'll just return a simple, first I'm going to print the response out. So I'm just going to print snapshots dot data and then return a simple widget. data fetched successfully. Awesome. So this is not snapshot, it's snapshot dot data. Awesome. Okay, so I'm gonna play this. Okay, so I'll do a hot restart here and go to my debug console to see. Okay, I'm having an error somewhere. JSON provider. So okay, it's not supposed to be. Okay, sorry for that. So do a hot restart and you see why our data is fetching. We are having that progress indicator, and as soon as we got our data, we have data fetched successfully. And here you can see all the response. We have the first one, post ID, the name, ID, and all these. We also have the email address. Okay, now I'm going to work with this JSON data. I'm going to populate it into my list. So the thing I'm going to show, I'll be using a list style. So the list style is going to have the name and also the email. So as soon as we click on it, the next page we're going to get the data. So basically what I'm going to show you here is how to populate the data with your JSON data, and also send the body onto another page so that we can just view the details of that response. Okay, so now what I'm going to do, I'll remove this. Okay, I'm going to remove this test. So instead of returning a test, I will just return a Listview.builder. So this is going to enable us to create an infinite scroll. So return Listview.builder, and the Listview.builder takes two parameters. So one is the item count, and the item count to take the total number of data you want to return. Maybe you can return 3, you can return 4, but for best practice, just return snapshot.data.length. Okay, and the next thing is the item builder. So this item builder, we're going to build our widget, but first I'm going to create a variable. So it's going to be the current data, and I'll get the snapshot dot data and get the index of each item. Okay, now I'm going to return a simple list style, a list style widget. So the title is going to be the name. You can see we have the name here, so I'm going to return the name. So title is going to be a test. You can see I'm not using a const variable here because this data is going to be dynamic because it's being fetched from the internet. So I'm going to say data and then the name of what I want to pass, which is name. Make sure it's the same thing. Don't use uppercase when this one is lowercase. You're going to get an error. And next I'm going to create a subtitle, and the subtitle is going to have the email. Okay, so I'll still get data and email. Okay, so let me close this up, and you see our list will be populated with those data. List dynamic has an instance data length. Okay, I have a wrong spelling here. You can see my length is not spelled correctly. So how is it spelled? Okay, dot length. Okay, dot length. Okay, so now you see our data has been populated successfully, and if you look here, you can see the first one is library s, and that's not my language. So if I go back down, you can see we have the ID. You can see library s, and that we also have the image under the title. So now I'm going to show you how to view the body. Once we click on this button, it's going to open another page where we can then see the body. Okay, but first, to do that, I'm going to create a variable to store the body. So this is going to be body. So I'm also going to get it from the snapshot, but it's going to come from this data. So I'll just say data and the name, which is body. Make sure it's also correct, and body. Awesome. So now I'm going to create another page. So this is going to be a details page. So just create a new file, details page.dat. Okay, so this is going to just going to be a stateless widget, sorry. So I want to install the material package, and it's going to be a stateless widget because nothing is dynamic, nothing is changing, just the data that is being coming in. So this is going to be details. Okay, so I'm going to return a scaffold, and the scaffold is going to have an app bar. So app bar, so this is going to be details, and then I'm going to return a center widget as a body. So the body is going to be displayed at the middle of the page. So I'll just have a child, and it's also going to be a text widget. So for now, since I've not passed any data, I'll just say body goes here. So body goes here. Okay, so I'll go back to my main.dat and add a click listener to this. So I'll just say on tap. So once the user taps on this, we want to navigate to the other page. So navigation.push and the current context, and I'll do something like material page routes. Okay, so this is going to have a context, but you can decide to just use a basic placeholder if you don't want to put a context. And straight up, we're going to return the details page, import that, and make sure you close this. So for proper formatting, I'm going to put comma here and click Ctrl Shift I. Okay, if you're on Windows, if you're not using Mac, but if you're using Mac, just Ctrl Shift, yeah, the same thing. Okay, so now if I click on this any item here, you can see it's going to open the next page for us. Okay, so what's happening? On tab, navigation, the push details page. Okay, so I'll do a hot restart here. Okay, we're having error .html. I imported the wrong package, so I'll go back to JSON. Okay, I imported this package, so I'm going to remove it. That was the error causing package. So click on this, you can see the new page will be loaded for us. So now this is the details page. It has details, body goes here, but now we are having this because we haven't passed in the body. So to make that possible, I will go back to the details page and create a constructor. So it's just going to be a string of body, and then create a constructor details page. So this is going to be a named constructor. So I will say this dot body. Okay, so right inside here, instead of returning body, I'm just return the widget, this variable here, body. So whichever text we pass from the main.dat will automatically be populated here. Okay, don't forget to close this. So I'll go back to my main.dat file, and so here where we are passing it, if you hover on it, you can see we have a parameter that needs to be added. So I will go here, since it's the name constructor, I will type body, and then the body of this variable here which I created, so just type in body. Okay, and save it up. So once I click on this, you can see the body will automatically be displayed on the next page. So now we have the body displayed on this page. So if I go back, click on another one, you can see the body is also displayed on the page. Awesome. So this is how you make a simple network request over the internet using the HTTP package and also the future builder. Okay, so now the next thing I'm going to show you is how to store this, cache this JSON data onto your mobile devices in case you don't have internet connection. Okay, so initially we have already imported the parse provider package, so this will enable us to make that possible. So I'll go to my JSON provider class. So first thing first, I'm going to import. Okay, no need to import first because it's going to import automatically on its own. So what I'm going to do, I will just Okay, so I will just, okay, I'll comment this for now and pause this app. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a string, so where we can store the data. So this is going to be the file name. So I'll just create a JSON path. So this is going to be path string.json. Okay, so path string.json. So we're storing those JSON data inside, and then I'm going to create a variable. So directory equals to await, since it's going to perform it synchronously. So I will say get temporary directory. So all these are coming from the path provider. You can see the path provider has been imported automatically. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'll create a file. Okay, file, and then the directory dot path. So this file is going to access the directory dot path, and from there, once you access the temporary directory inside the user's device, so I'm going to concatenate it with a slash, and also concatenate it with the name of the file, so which is file name. Awesome. Okay, so this showing red, we need to import it. So just click on insert it first, and then click import the dart.io package. So right click, you go down, import library dart.io, and that will fix our issue for us. Okay, so now the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to use an if statement. So okay, so I will say if file, which is this current file, dot exist, that is if it exists in the user's device. So what will I do? I'm going to fetch those data from the internet. So I'm going to just print something unique, so that we'll know that it's coming from the server or it's coming from the network. So I'll just say reading from phone cache. Okay, reading from device cache. Okay, so that's going to print if it's coming from the cache. Okay, so I'm going to say, so here I'm going to read from cache. So just read from cache. So it is very easy to implement. So I'm just going to say file, which is this file. So I'm accessing the part where the file is being stored. So I will say file dot read as string sync. Okay, close this up. So it's going to read every data inside this path directory. And once we get those data, what am I going to do? I'm going to JSON decode it. So I will say, see, similar thing we did here. So let's just assume this is the body, which is the response that I just got from here. And then I'm just going to file response JSON.decode it. So what I'm going to do is just say final response equal to JSON.decode. So I'm just going to decode the data because it's as a string. And once I decode it, I'm going to return the resource. Okay, but what about if this file does not exist already? So that's where the network request comes in. So I'll use the if statement. So here I'll print fetching from the network. Okay, so we're going to fetch our data now from the network instead of the cache. But if the data already exists inside the cache, we can just fetch it from the cache instead of the network. So we'll say fetch from network. Okay, so now I'm still going to do similar thing. So just the same thing I did here. So I will say final response awaits, right? Okay, so I already have gotten this response await. So instead of here, I'm just going to copy it because we are doing everything inside here. So I'm copying that response.http.get the URL, sorry. Then I'm going to say if, just similar thing we did here. So for simplicity, I'm just going to copy this stuff, the whole of it, so that you're going to understand it. So copy it, Control S, and remove this one, so we don't need that. Oh, it's still similar thing, sorry. Okay, so just remove this, sorry. Remove this and also the if statement. So I'm going to paste it here and uncomment it. So it's showing error. What's the matter? Okay, so now S is going to print if response or status code is equal to 200. So what we're going to do is just get the final body response that body. So we're getting the body, and then final response json.decode the body. Okay, and then I'm going to return the response. But before I do that, I also need to store the fetch data to inside this JSON part. So get temporal storage. So I'm going to store it inside here. So above here, before I decode it, so I'm just going to say phi. Okay, so which is the variable we created above already. So I'll say phi dot write. Okay, for better clarity, save to JSON cache. Okay, so I'll just say phi dot write as string sync. So it's going to tell us the content that we want to add. So the content is the body, so I'll add the body, and I'll use flush. So I always like to put this to true, and the mood, so it will be find mood dot write. Okay, so just use find mood. So it has so many things. We have the write, find mood or read, write only append, and you have so many things you can just play with. So I'm going to go with find mood dot write. Okay, so this is it, and we have successfully done our network request. But what about we want to throw an error? Okay, you can just say S, just the same similar thing we did initially. So just return json.decode, and you decode your body. You decode request.body. Awesome. So now we have returned this. So basically, if you look through this, let me minimize this. Let me take it down a little. So if you look through this, we are getting the data. But first, I checked if the data, like I created a path, and then I check if the file that exists. So if this file is already created, so you can just read from the device cache and then populate our UI. But if the device is not yet fetched already, so you can just fetch from the internet. Once you fetch from the internet, you can then save it onto that file. So once you save it, you get then we send the request. So on the next fetch again, instead of looking through this fetching from network, it's going to read from the device cache. Okay, so you can see I didn't actually change this one because it's still similar thing. So I'm going to play this video. I'm going to play the app and then play. Sorry for that. So now wait for it. So I'm just going to do a hot restart. Listen plugin. Okay, I'm having error. So what I'm going to do, let me just clean my project. Flutter clean. Okay, so do a hot restart again. Okay, so I had to check the whole thing again, and I discovered that the get temporal directory error was because I was using an emulator. So I had to connect my normal physical device, and you can see it here running. And I tried it and I successfully passed all the data. I didn't change any code, I didn't do any modification to anything here. And you can see the first thing that showed is fetching from the network. That was this other one. So it has already checked if this part exists. So since the part does not exist, it now went on to check for fetching from the network. And you can see we successfully have all the data, and it's been displayed on my physical device. And when I click on each of them, you can see I have the details page. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to refresh it again to see if actually we are going to see fetching from the network or fetching from device cache. Okay, so let's try it again and see if okay, so give it a little bit of time, and let's see. So now you didn't see that progress indicator, and the data just changed automatically. So let me see the top side, what happened. So you see we have fetching from device cache. So now I'm going to go on and turn off my mobile data from my device. So I'm going to turn it off, sorry. So scroll down. So I'm going to turn this off. So I'll turn off my mobile data and just close the app completely and open it again. So fetching. Okay, so let's see if it's going to fetch from the internet or from the cache. Hooray! So now we have our data being fetched from the device storage, whereby we don't even have any internet connection and we are still having our data. This is awesome. So even if I click on one data, so let me just click on one list, and you can see we are also having the details page being loaded. I can do this again. I can do this as much as I can. So I'm going to open it again and see. So you can see my mobile data is off already. It's not on. So let's see, and we are still fetching our data. Awesome, this is so good. So let me turn on my data and still try it again and see. So now my data is on, you can see. So I'm going to fetch app again, open the app again. Hooray, it still works. So we are fetching our data from the internet. Also we are fetching it from the cache. Awesome, this is awesome. So far you have seen it all, guys. So this is how you can, so far what we learned is how to use the HTTP library to fetch JSON data, how to use the path provider library to cache our data into the device storage, also how to use feature builder to load data, and so many more. So guys, thank you so much for watching, and please consider subscribing. I'm gonna see you in the next video.